Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to see what my favorite soundtracks be. Greetings, y'all. Welcome to another video. Today, we will be discussing my favorite movie soundtracks. I guess we won't really be discussing it because I'm going to be the only one doing the talking. Although I guess you could leave comments below. That's kind of like us talking with each other, right? I guess, something like that. Anyways, so I love the movies, always have loved the movies since I was a little kid. I still go to the movies, unlike a lot of people. I take advantage of those AMC Discount Tuesdays.
AMC Theaters does not endorse this video.
I have maybe about 50 soundtracks in my collection total. When I first got into buying music in like 80 or 81, I remember I had on cassette the soundtracks to Flash Gordon and Popeye, two highly regarded classics of cinema. I'm sure you are all aware of. Everyone's seen those films and holds them in high regard, right? But I don't have those anymore. I got rid of them, sorry to announce. But yeah, I just really enjoy some of these soundtracks and decided to go through and show my favorites of my collection. So here they are. From 1986, we get the soundtrack to Club Paradise, the comedy film directed by Harold Ramis and starring Robin Williams and Jimmy Cliff, who provides most of this soundtrack. This is my original cassette I bought back in 1986. You might be wondering, hey Steve, you're looking pretty classy today in this video, and it's a little different than usual. What's the story? What's going on there? Well, I'll tell you. This snazzy jacket I'm wearing is my old movie theater usher jacket from Seaview Square in Ocean, New Jersey. General Cinema. Check it out. Still fits. I should probably wear this more often, right? Anybody got a wedding they want to invite me to? I'll be more than happy to show up in this. So I got a job there at the movie theater, Seaview Square. And when I started working there, we had two screens. We had two movies playing there. We had Running Scared, great film with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. And we had the other screen, Club Paradise. And, you know, as you're an usher, you're standing in the back of the theater. So I'd be back there watching the movie quite a bit. And this soundtrack, just hearing the songs in the film, just really kind of like really got into it. And I don't think I was really that familiar with reggae before this movie. I'm sure I probably had heard one or two songs before that, but this was really my introduction to reggae. And I just heard these songs so much while sitting in the back of the theater watching this film while I was working, that I went out and picked up this soundtrack, this cassette. This is the one I bought. And just a really awesome soundtrack. Half of it's like a Jimmy Cliff album and the other half is a bunch of other reggae artists. But the movie, you know, I didn't think much of it back at the time, but it's grown on me over the years. I kind of enjoy it now. I kind of find it pretty funny, but it wasn't that successful. So I bought this on cassette. Then maybe 10 some odd years ago, I picked it up on vinyl at Angry Moms in Ithaca, New York. And you're wondering, how much do you really love this album? I love this album so much that I also picked it up on CD. Now, the thing about the CD here is that it wasn't released on CD in America. It was only released in Japan on CD for whatever reason. I mean, this is 1986. This is right when CDs are really kind of beginning to be available in stores, especially here in America. So maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not sure. But this CD was very tricky to get my hands on. Like I said, it was only put out in Japan. So whenever I'd find this on eBay, people always wanted a lot of money for it. I mean, it wasn't unfamiliar to find this on eBay being offered for like $100 or more. And I kept looking and just was like, I'm not paying $100 for a CD. And then finally, somebody put it up for, I think, like $75. And even that was too much for me. But I just decided, hey, let me hit them up and just make an offer. And, I just was like, hey, look, I'm not trying to insult you or anything, but, I'm just curious if, I can't pay 75, but would you be willing to take this much? And they said, sure, I'll take it. So I finally got the CD of Club Paradise, and very happy to have it. Tracks on here I love. You got 7-Day Weekend with Jimmy Cliff and Elvis Costello and the Attractions. Some other songs by Jimmy Cliff, American Plan, Third World People, the title track. And then you have other bands on here, Well Pleased and Satisfied, Mighty Sparrow, and Blue Rhythm Band. If you're into reggae and like Jimmy Cliff, and maybe never heard this soundtrack before, highly recommend picking it up because it is definitely worth it. 1972, more Jimmy Cliff, The Harder They Come soundtrack. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with this one. I'm sure it'd be kind of weird for me to bring up Club Paradise and not mention this. And this basically sets the template for Club Paradise. You got kind of half a Jimmy Cliff album and half a bunch of other reggae artists. This is on Mango Records. There's your vinyl. I'm sorry I didn't show you the Club Paradise vinyl, but looks pretty much the same. Nothing special there. But yeah, just a phenomenal soundtrack. I saw this film maybe in the 90s at some point. Very popular film, especially like kind of underground or like art house kind of stuff when this came out. It's a good film, kind of like a, real kind of like slice of life of Jamaica at that time. And it's kind of got a little bit of a gangster kind of thing to it. But it's a really good film. I really enjoyed it. And the soundtrack is awesome. On here, you've got You Can Get It If You Really Want, Many Rivers to Cross, the title track, Sitting in Limbo. Then you've got some other artists on here, the Melodians, Toots and the My Towels, do a couple, Desmond Decker, the Slickers. When people think of reggae, they instantly, obviously, and for good reason, they think of Bob Marley. He is the biggest reggae star in the world, without a doubt. But I think people forget that before Bob Marley, I think this album is what really broke reggae in America. When this came out, people weren't listening to Bob Marley. I don't know if they were even familiar with him. I don't even know how easy it was to get any records by him. But when this came out, it kind of broke reggae in America and then kind of made it, it opened the door for Bob Marley to come in and just kind of essentially conquer America with reggae. 1986, we get the soundtrack to Pretty in Pink, the John Hughes written and produced film. I believe Howard Deutsch was the director on this one. Not a big fan of the movie. Saw it when it opened in theaters. I remember seeing it actually. I don't know why I remember this, but I remember seeing this. We went and saw this film, and then we snuck into the other theater afterwards to see this horror film called April Fool's Day. Pretty good film if you're looking to see kind of like a horror kind of comedy film. But never been a big fan of this film. It's okay, nothing special, but the soundtrack's amazing. This is 1986. What I'm mostly listening to at that time is kind of your standard, what we call now classic rock, and also top 40, especially what I'm seeing on music videos, all top 40 kind of stuff. And then this soundtrack comes along with a lot of bands I wasn't familiar with, and just really started getting into it. It's kind of, like I said, Club Paradise kind of like opened the gates for me with reggae. This kind of opened the gates for me with, what we refer to as alternative rock or college rock or modern rock, whatever. But it's just a fantastic soundtrack. On here, you've got OMD, Suzanne Vega, In Excess, Psychedelic Furs, New Order, Echo and the Bunnymen, The Smiths. It was just like a starter kit for this different kind of music that was coming along and would really kind of explode at the end of the 80s there and going into the 90s. But just fantastic soundtrack, Pretty in Pink. Movie, not so much. 1966, we get The Endless Summer. soundtrack to the classic quintessential surfing film by the great Bruce Brown. The band The Sandals did all this music. Fantastic band. They didn't really record a ton and didn't really have any major success, but this soundtrack is just awesome. This is just a great kind of like chilled out, mellow, like summer breeze kind of soundtrack, just, personifies like kind of summer, certainly Southern California beach kind of vibe. Picked up this soundtrack a couple of years ago from Amoeba in Hollywood. The title track especially is like the standout, but all these tracks just really cool, chill music like I mentioned. And I remember in 1994, they put out a sequel to The Endless Summer called The Endless Summer 2. Hey, how about that title? And I remember seeing that in theaters, and then I don't know if it was that summer or later in the year or whatever. We used to always go to this $2 movie theater out in Northridge, California. So I remember this one time going out there, and I guess we were early before the movie started or whatever, and we went to the warehouse and just digging through records and checking stuff out. And I remember finding a Sandals CD called The Spirit of Surf, and this is it right here. And it had a couple of tracks from The Endless Summer 1 and some from The Endless Summer 2. And I remember picking this up back there and listening to it. And that's just really how I got into the Sandals and their music from these films. 1991, we get The Commitments, great Alan Parker film. I'm sure a bunch of you guys have heard this soundtrack and seen this film. It's a fantastic film. Loved it since I saw it back then. Revisited it a couple of years ago and it holds up. It's still a great film about a bunch of young kids in Ireland form this kind of like R&B soul band. And, it's just a great film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But when I saw this back then, went out instantly, picked up the album, and it's great. I mean, it's like a band album, as opposed to just a compilation of different songs like some of these other ones, perhaps. But this is kind of more like the band from the film. This is the songs that they played, and it's great. I really love this. The band, I think after the film was so popular, the soundtracks did really well. I think the band went on tour, like a form of the band, like a few of the actors from the film were part of this touring band that was out and about. There might still be a version of that band out there, but I'm not sure. But there might be like one or two people left over from the film still in it, or maybe none, I don't know. But great soundtrack, and it was so popular and such a good soundtrack that they put out a volume 2, which is also good, but between the two, the first one is far better. Just great collection of songs on here. Mustang Sally, Chain of Fools, Dark End of the Street, Destination Anywhere is really good. Mr. Pitiful, In the Midnight Hour, just a fantastic one. I'm sure probably most of you guys are familiar with this one. And finally, 2009, we get Karen O and the soundtrack to Where the Wild Things Are, based on the famous children's book. I love Karen O. I'm a huge fan of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, so pretty much anything any of them do as side projects, I'm down for. And I have been a fan of all the stuff that Karen O has recorded outside of the band. This soundtrack came out and I picked it up immediately. I got it originally on CD and just listened to it constantly. Not a big fan of the film. I wasn't too crazy about. Spike Jonze, very talented director, made that film, but not. I revisited it a few years ago, and it still just doesn't really work 100% for me. But the soundtrack's amazing. I really love this, and like I said, I picked it up originally on CD, and then years and years later, was finally able to buy it on vinyl. I think originally there were a lot of copies of this floating around that were bootlegs, so it took me a while to find like a legit copy that was put out by Interscope. But glad that I finally did. Some of the tracks on here I really like: All Is Love, Worried Shoes, which is a cover of a Daniel Johnston song, Rumpus, Heads Up. Yeah, just a fantastic soundtrack. Might not be familiar with this one, but really worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and you're not familiar with some of Karen O's kind of solo projects. But yeah, that's everything. Those are my favorite soundtracks that I own of all time, however you want to phrase that. So I really appreciate you checking out this stuff. By all means, let me know what your favorite soundtracks are, and we shall see you at the movies. Hey, thumbs up. See you later, y'all. I really popped popcorn for this video. Can you believe that?